Yo, what is up, internet? Um, okay, so this has all been discussed on the channel before. It's a little more condensed now because I've been through it with clients a number of times. So I just wanted to get it on the channel to start pushing the disc golf awareness or lack thereof in a direction that I feel is productive. So, um, what are we going to call this? You can call it three rails theory. That's I think what people have said has made it click the most. But at a basic level, there is a rail on which my front foot goes. There is a rail on which my back foot goes. Mr. Bearhart, Brian Earhart, has used that language in his X Step deep dive video, which is excellent. Go watch it. He throws using this concept. He's one of the more visually apparent people that throws using this concept. Go watch his throws in the intro of his Discraft series, Level Up something something. You can find it. He's very popular. Adding a little bit to that concept, there's a third rail in the middle over which my center of gravity hovers the whole time. So, uh, essentially, I'm shifting my weight targetward. There's some nuance to this. It doesn't have to be exactly that, but generally, my weight shift is going targetward. Another way to think about it is my weight shift is going a couple inches behind my heel. So my weight shift goes here. So if I shift my weight, it makes me want to rebalance there. You may note this looks similar to something else we have done on this channel a lot. So what gets done wrong by like 90% of amateur players is this is their weight shift. Whatever they're doing, they get on their X step and then they say, okay, my last foot has to go there. So I'm going to drive my weight there. And then their weight goes here and they get stuck behind their front leg and they can't clear their front hip and their throw ends up looking like this, or they get pokey in the front shoulder, or they get scoop and their leg spins around too much and they do not get to this counterweighted position where the leg being behind helps you leverage into a good hit point at 45 degrees. A hit point is not forward. A straight line pull theory doesn't work for most players because we don't have the arm strength to constantly accelerate through the hit point. Talking about myself here. So if I try to throw straight at the camera, that's what happens. There's a little tiny bit of whoosh right here. If I throw the way that I think I'm supposed to, that works for my body type, I'm going to focus on my hit point being there. So here's a bad one. Here's a good one. Does that seem different? Which one is likely more effective? The one that makes a big whoosh sound. So I don't really want to think about pulling in a straight line. If that's a useful cue for you, that's a useful cue for you. Go ahead and do it. But I want to think about pulling from here. I'm not even, like I was going to say pull in, but I'm not pulling in. I'm just driving my elbow forward. That makes the disc pull in. And then continuing to drive my elbow forward, and that makes the disc pop out to a hit point. That's an out in out. What I actually do, it works for me because I have a relatively low amount of arm power. This doesn't work for me because I can't drive my elbow forward fast enough. I actually have to reach back here in the no-no zone where you're not supposed to reach. But I'm getting the same out in out. I'm just starting more in. It's still in to out because a wide rail doesn't work very good for me. I need the disc back here to get it moving in the right direction. So for example, like if I go wide rail, I can't get enough speed there. If I go back here, then I get a ton. So it's like there's a million ways to think about it, but it kind of is a straight line pull, but I'm not pulling. My line is not here. My line is there. So I'm starting back here, pulling from out to in to out, and that's on almost a 45 relative to my target line. So that's just me. Your mileage may vary. If you're more athletic than me, then a straighter line pull or less reaching behind you is probably going to work better. But that's that part. So back to the hips. The reason that my one leg position works is because this hip can't move, because there's a post and a planet in the way of this hip going down. So when this hip comes up and comes down, it creates hip torque. My belt buckle goes from the back corner of the T-pad to the front corner of the T-pad and then stops, keeping my leg alignment, toe that way, knee that way, hip that way, and never do those things turn. So people doing my one leg drill for the first time are almost always without fail here, 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 and then here. That's not what we want. We want toe, knee, and hip in line the whole time. So then I'm going to wind up, leave that alignment intact, come to my knee forward, my hip forward position, and leave that alignment intact. My hip will move a little bit when I get here, but it's not moving a lot. So I'm keeping this alignment. I'm trying to get my front leg to not rotate so that I can find that moment of a non-rotating front leg where I can piston, have my front hip get clear, allow my rear hip to continue forward, and then my leg will rotate when I'm on the heel. So that works because of the front leg being a post. Because my front leg is static, I'm able to approximate the hip torque that happens in a dynamic throw, because the force is all lined up and down. The rear hip just goes down, the front hip just goes up, or is kept from going down by the force of the leg. When that shifts into a dynamic brace, including a walk up or any kind of weight shift from a standstill to a one step to a full walk up, boom, the up down part goes away and the up down becomes I don't even know what to call that, diagonal forward, based on how quickly you're moving and how young and athletic you are. If you're eagle, you get all the way down, cool. If you're not, maybe you're like girthy and it's a slightly more vertical movement. But you have the same thing here, down force, up force. Here in a dynamic movement, you have down and forward from the rear hip and up and backward from the front hip, because you are getting into the leg and then extending the leg, clearing the front hip. So you're creating the same type of hip torque in both models. Another way to explain how this works is if I demonstrate one rail theory. So there's one rail that both of my feet are on and that my weight shift is on. So I'm shifting my weight directly that way. I'm putting my plant directly that way. Pretty cool demo, huh? That's it. When I step that way and shift my weight that way, nothing happens. It's not useful for throwing. How I change that to 2-rail, 1.5 rail theory is I'm going to keep shifting my weight directly that way, but I'm going to offset my plant a little bit to the toe side. Do this, experiment with how much you move it off, and don't try to change anything else. I'm just going to shift that way, put my foot a little bit in front, and then try to stop. Boom. Then I get some hip torque because there's an off axis. Is that right? Yeah, I guess there's an offset from my weight shift versus where my plant is going. So looking at that from the front, here's the bad demo. I plant on the line, I'm shifting my weight, no hip torque is created. This is what most players do. They do some little body English thing to get some hip rotation, but it's not the type of hip rotation we want. It's not the level of explosivity that we want, and it doesn't produce the results we want. So what we want, shift the weight that way, put the foot 6-8 inches in front of that. Then when I step there and just try to stop, it makes this hip clear, which allows this hip to continue coming forward. That's the type of rotation we want. That's the type of rotation we get here, boom, in a one leg. So that's what you're trying to build a body awareness of, and then you're trying to get it to come out by offsetting your plant from your direction of weight shift. another way to think about this. This is the idea I first started talking about, is the crumple zone idea. So if I'm here on my X step, going to my plant, I get to my plant, I don't want my booty to go over the front foot. That's not going to work. I want my booty to keep going this way, behind my heel. So what you're going to see in a high level throw is you're going to see the back pockets on a 45. You're going to see this heel come down. You're going to see the knee straighten up to some extent. And that knee straightening is going to clear the front hip so that you then see the front pockets on a 45. So within a couple of frames, you're going to see back pockets, heel down, front leg drives, front pockets. That creates slamming hip torque that allows us to throw at an elite level. That is what I think is missing from the vast majority of coaching. I am not aware of any other coach online that is covering that. Exception, Yanni, Spin Doctor, has a drill that touches on the concept where he has you, I don't remember exactly how he has it set up, but he has you, he calls it a sweeper drill. He has you sweeping this rear leg, getting into the same counterweight position that I have you get in. That's the one coach I'm aware of that is actually pushing this idea. That's not to say other coaches aren't doing it. That's to say I am not aware of it. I do not keep up with everyone. I wish I had time to, but I don't. So if you know examples of other coaches who are doing that, please drop me a comment. I would love to check out their stuff and see what they're doing. But that's I think the most useful thing that I have found that almost all amateur players aren't getting right, that almost all pro players are getting right. So go look at your favorite pro, see if you think they're doing this, and drop me a comment below. And then look at footage of yourself and tell me if you think you're doing this. And if you like the way that I think, the way that I talk about this nonsense, please go check out the Patreon. It is springtime. Patreon numbers have dipped because tournament players are going back to the tournaments. So if you want to hop on the Patreon, now is an excellent time to. I'm really enjoying coaching folks. Just had a new player from Sweden hop on there. Thank you, sir. And it's really fun. I really like doing it, and there's a lot more space right now, so I'm able to spend a little bit of extra time with folks when they send in videos. So if you're interested, go check it out, and hopefully I'll see you there. All right, later, internet.